Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are around the world. It is a pleasure to welcome you back to the Light 'em Up Lounge. It's Wednesday, Cigar, time for another live show, time for another inspiring and incredible craftsman and amazing guest for today's show. I'm delighted, I'm honored, and very happy to welcome John van Tintel from Van Tintel Printing Arts with us today. So we'll take a slightly different perspective on the cigar industry today. As you all know, most often we talk to manufacturers and brand owners. Today we'll take a little bit of a behind the scenes look, not only in terms of manufacturing cigars, the blending and all that, but the artistic component that ultimately beautifully dresses and decorates the wonderful cigars that we all love and enjoy. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them underneath the Facebook live stream. I'm always checking over there and trying to forward your questions to John. For all of you here at the lounge, please make yourselves heard. We'd love to hear your questions. So without further ado, John, welcome to Light 'em Up, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. The list of people that you have had on the show, quite amazing. So I feel humble that you guys invite me to do this. Yes.
It is an absolute pleasure, and as we said in the announcement, a wonderful quote that you told me before we actually scheduled the show is that from a very young age on, you started making music, drawing, and getting involved with everything that had wheels and made noise. And now here we are talking about cigars, talking about cigar art. How did all that come together from those early beginnings with wheels and noise to one of the finest and most delicate components of craftsmanship and art that not only the cigar industry, but so many other industries have seen, and so many amazing projects that you've been working on?
Well, how did it all start? Well, it's the noise thing. So the interest for everything with wheels and that kind of stuff came from my own family. My father rode a motorcycle from a very early age, also. So that's something you grow into, of course. Mm-hmm. My mother was very involved into music. So combine those two, then you got wheels and then you got noise. So that's basically it. That's the start of it all. As for becoming a printer, my grandfather was already a printer in 1930 when the family van Tintel was still located in Amsterdam. And he worked for a printing company that did only the printing work for Scandinavian, and now it's Scandinavian Tobacco Group. At that point, it was a Swedish match company. So they did all the match printing. I still have a ton of those laying around from that era, actually. So that's really cool stuff. But finally, the Swedish match company said, okay, we make matches in Eindhoven and we do the printing in Amsterdam. So let's pick up that facility and place it to Eindhoven. So that's how we got located in Eindhoven, in Brabant, in the Netherlands. So I've always been around with printing machines and with motorbikes and with cars and with music. And that's how it all evolved. And of course, when you're 5 years old, you can't ride a bike and you can't ride a car. But when I look at my early drawings, especially in agendas from school, it's all drawings from motorcycles, from cars, from guitars, all that kind of stuff. So it was something that was within me already. Yeah, it wasn't forced into me. Let me explain it like that. Yeah.
It's wonderful, I guess, when you can say that something like this evolves so naturally, and you grow into that role, but you also have it in your DNA and in your blood, and it's not something that you're being forced into. And especially like a family operation like Van Tintel and printing art, I assume that makes it even more special when you can look back to the heritage and the legacy that the family has built, and then you continue that path into a prosperous future.
Yeah, that's true, but that's something that you learn to appreciate later on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I started out as a printer when I was 16 years old. I wanted to become a professionally printer as soon as I could, because I really enjoyed it. My father's first own company, he started when I was 11 years old. So at that point, in the weekends, I was already there. Not just for the printing, I gotta be honest, I took my bicycle apart and all that kind of stuff, and did painting already. But it really became natural to me. The smell of paper, the smell of ink, all that kind of stuff.
John, can you still recall, like, what was it that really captured your attention, or that made you passionate about those things? Was it like a sensory component when you say like the smell of the paper and the ink, or was it the crafts component of doing something with your hands that you can feel, or was it truly that you had the inspiration from your family and seeing your father getting into all that?
Well, to be honest, I've never seen my grandfather at a printing machine, so that's not from him. And by the time that my father had his own company, he was working on the machines, but not quite as lot as in the early days, of course. I mean, when you run a company, well, you got to do so many things, and it's very easy to become drawn from that part. But I always really liked that part. And the thing that I like the most is you start with a white canvas, a white piece of paper, and each step of the way you see it build up, and that's something that you can do with a lot of things. When you record music, you can do drums first, and then guitar, and then bass, and eventually it will becomes a tune. And with printing, it's the same thing. You can add colors, and when you don't like it, you say, okay, let's add another color. Mm-hmm. That is specifically how it was done in the early days in the stone print. They kept adding colors. When you take those early cigar bands or labels for that matter, they all pop because of the hideous amount of colors that they used at that point. Because time was cheap then. So when it wasn't good enough, okay, do some more. So seeing a white piece of paper evolving into a nice wine label or whiskey, or because that was the stuff that we really did in the beginning a lot as well. So the becoming of something and being able to adapt it. When you build a motorbike, you can, in the meantime, when you take a test drive and you don't like it, you can add some things. You can change the carburetor. You can fine tune the suspension, all that kind of stuff. So the whole trip from the beginning to the end. That's for me the nicest thing.
That's beautiful, and I love the way you describe that. At what point did cigars creep into the overall picture and became another component of that journey?
Well, that's really easy actually, because when my father started his company, the majority of what he did was stationery. So business cards and small brochures, all that kind of stuff. But everybody was doing that. Every printing company was doing that. When my father started, he did only the small amounts, and that was not done very often in that time, and that's how he could build his existence. But very soon I became bored with that kind of work. Yeah, And he started in 1980, and in 1983 he got a call from Drukkerij Vrijdag. I think you all know Drukkerij Vrijdag, which is one of the greatest printing companies in the world. And they were looking at a small facility to do their tiny projects. And so together, the former owner, together with my father, they set up a company that did specifically that, only that. So only the small assignments for them. So that's how I became known with, at that time, it was 50-50, I think. A lot of whiskey labels, a lot of cigarettes. I mean, at that time, Friday was in the dog food and cat food as well. So they did a lot of things. They still do a lot of things. But all the steps you had to do to make a great band, that was what attracted me the most. Mm-hmm. And so that was the path for me to go. I knew that from a very early age on. Yeah.
Why was the cigar world different from all those other industries that you had experienced before? Was it the art? Was it the very restricted like space that you could play with? So I would assume it becomes even more complicated because it's so small little details and fine craftsmanship. But then, as we all know, the spirit, the community, the camaraderie of the cigar industry is something unique that you probably don't find in many other industries. What was that pull factor for you that you very much enjoyed about this particular ecosystem?
Well, that's an easy answer as well. When you bring someone 500 business cards, they say, "Oh, that's good, that's nice, okay, nice." But when you bring someone his first cigar band and you fiddled around with it for days, really days, they pick it up and they go like, "Let me get someone." They pick it up and they look for every single detail, and not only on the front, on the back as well. So you gotta know that the image that is on the box, that is usually this wide, and you gotta scale it down to something this big, and still being able to see all the details, still being able to read it, all that kind of stuff, and the positioning, everything has to be spot on. So to me, this makes the most pleasure to make. So that's why I ended up saying, let's go with that. Let's only do that. We still do some like caviar, but only high-end products. Yeah, because those people really appreciate the amount of time and the effort that you put into it. Yeah.
Is that something where you would say the cigar industry truly differs from some
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to be a trained cigar smoker to see without a band what kind of cigar it is. And you can see how well it's put together and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, take it off, take the band off, and I'm not saying it becomes another smoke, but it certainly becomes another appearance.
It's very true. And for me, coming from the multi-sensory experience world, I cannot state often enough how much the surrounding factors make for the overall cigar experience. And it's fascinating how colors and visuals could even impact your immediate olfactory and gustatory sensation. So you wouldn't even believe, and we did experiments on this, and I wrote articles in Cigar Journal about this, how even the color of the ring could change your overall perception of the cigar, because our sensory system is a holistic ecosystem, and everything comes into play and has a major role.
That's the way it works. Ever since ever since cavemen, the one with the biggest cave got the women. You mean, it's what appeals to the eye, of course. And a trained cigar smoker knows exactly, of course, okay, it might have a nice band, but I don't like the taste. I don't like the blend that's been done. It's a crappy put together cigar. That can happen as well. So that's a responsibility for me as well. Huh? So for me, trying to, and that sounds a bit arrogant, but trying to pick out the cigar makers that actually make good cigars. And I'm not a cigar smoker as well. So for me, that's when I get to know the people, and that's only been happening since the last 4 years that I really, that I'm really getting into this world. I've been working below the radar since my 16th year old. So that's becoming more and more obvious now. So now I get to see the people behind the cigars, because when I first went to Dortmund to the Intertabak, I've worked for Ernesto, I worked for Padron, I worked for Fuente, I've worked for Cohiba, Perdomo, for Davidoff, Monte Cristo, you name it, but I couldn't tell which was who. I never knew who was behind it, because we all did those assignments for the larger printing companies. Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of an insight how that process normally works when you start to collaborate or you work on a new cigar project? How, like, is there a standard pathway for the creative process and how you get together? Would most of the manufacturers come with a very strong idea or an exact draft, or is it truly the input that you can provide and the experience that you have from your expertise that changes the whole dynamic of the process?
Well, of course, I know what's technically possible, but every time it keeps surprising me that the way it's being presented is always different. You got people who know exactly what they want, and you can shift really quick. And you got people also who are saying, I'm looking for a new cigar band. So what does it cost? So actually asking that question, okay. And then we get into the details. What do you want? Do you have something in mind? Do you have a design? Do you have a designer? Do you want to participate in the designing? So when you got people like I'm not going to name any names, but you got a lot of people who know exactly what they want, and that works really quick. But they are in the cigar industry for so long, or they have some graphical influences, so they know what they like. They really know what they like, and when you know what you like, you can give specific orders, and that's the way it works quicker. But I got people coming in with a part of their car to match the cigar band with the color of the car. So it varies, yeah. And that's what's the nicest thing is. It's never the same. It's never the same.
Do you sometimes experience projects where, as you mentioned, somebody comes with a very strong idea and they have, all the designs laid out and everything seems easy, but then you have to tell them, look, that's all nice and fussy and fluffy, but it's never going to work from a technical perspective?
2 weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got a question from a person who wanted hot foil on a transparent cigar band, which basically needs to be from plastic. And the design was completely ready and all the kind of stuff. So I said, okay, it looks really cool to me, but how are you going to put a plastic band around the cigar? So I ended up making an email, which took me about, I think, 45 minutes to explain what could go wrong. And gave him several options to do it in a different way, and that it still would look the same. Because I could see from the mock-up that he did, he was already in for it for a lot of money. So then you try to help someone. You always try to help someone, but this man was way off. And I think probably by the designers who had a terrific idea. But you can't glue a piece of plastic to your cigar, not as a band. I mean, you got people who smoke it all the way to the band. Okay, let that be a plastic band. You're gonna have a very funny taste on your cigar, I think. So, that happens. Yeah.
Over the course of the years, with all the experience that you have in the industry, would you say there are certain trends and particular styles that you would probably associate with an era or a particular time? Like in former days, everybody tried to do X and then they shifted to Y. Because in the industry with the cigars, you see that a lot. One year, everybody needs to have a Connecticut shade wrapped cigar, and then it's all broadleaf, and the next year, Mexican San Andres. Do you have that with the art as well?
With the art, it's exactly the same thing. In the beginning, when we did the first Opus X, everybody wanted to have that paper. Everybody wanted to have that paper. And now later on, I think over the last 5 years, the coloring of the bands go from neon to completely gold. I mean, completely gold. Yeah. So it's yes, it diverses a lot. Yeah. There are still some people who like to hang on to the old school stuff. And when they ask me to do a design, I always do exactly what they want and do a couple of designs extra to push them in another direction or show them what is possible also. Because heavy coloring is an option these days. No problem.
Which of the individual components do you think has the most impact on the way that the cigar is ultimately dressed? Is it the paper? Is it the print? Is it the tactile sensation even? What are some of the little details that people probably overlook when they grab a cigar and strip off the ring and throw it into the ashtray?
Well, I think the cigar band with the most details in it are being overlooked. Because there's so much going on, you don't know where to look. And if you take, for instance, a Davidoff band, you can tell from 15 meters that someone is smoking a cigar, a Davidoff cigar. And it only contains white paper, gold foil, embossing, and a very special cutting that exactly fits the oval from the design. So that is very noticeable. Although it's not such a difficult band design-wise, it's very difficult to make. That's what it is, because when you're out of sync within 1/10 of a millimeter, you can see it immediately. So I think that the more details that are in a cigar band, the more they get overlooked. There's too much going on sometimes. So that's usually the largest part of my work when artwork comes in, where a designer has been working on a cigar band that eventually will end up this big, but he has made it on this screen. So usually there's a lot of things that is going on that can't be detailed into an embossing tool. So it's the most challenging thing to do is to down tune all the too many details, but still keep the design. It should be in a manner that the customer doesn't see that I fiddle around with it.
John, Albert over on Facebook posted a question, and he wanted to know, what was the most difficult band for you to print and die cut?
That's coming out very soon. So if he's a little bit patient, I've been working on the project since 2019. By now, that's the most difficult band ever to produce for me. Yeah, it contains so many steps. And it's not exaggerated with details, but I think within a couple of months it'll come out. And that's all I can say about it. That's an answer to the question. I'm sorry that he doesn't have an image with it to go, but that's still to come out. And one step lower than that, in the early days, when Gurkha cigars started, they always had very, very challenging designs, and those were really difficult to make. So I gotta say, and Gurkha is the one that taught me how to downsize artwork and still maintain the look and the feel of the band. And they use like a ton of foil on they use sometimes 4 different shades of gold foil on one cigar band, and those are all separate steps. So you have to be able to make it fit all together. So with the coloring, with the cutting, 4 kinds of gold foil, and in the end, still being able to that it all fits together. So Gurkha were for me the most challenging bands to do. Yeah. Until the next one that will come out in a couple of months.
Can you share some thoughts as to why that new project is so particularly challenging, or what are the intricate details that make it so hard?
Well, the guy who ordered them was a very. We both designed the band actually. We got together and we so. It happens sometimes that you get together with a customer and then okay, you share the screen and all that kind of stuff, and then you do okay, you place that there. But this guy I'm talking about, we really had an instant click. So we had a good chemistry going on, and we started to do a couple of meetings. And in those meetings, the roughly 70% of the design was finished, and then we started to do some testing. And it evolved, and it took about 1.5 years before the first test was completed. It's very challenging to do, but you will see it when it comes out. It's truly amazing, and it's the most expensive band we've ever made. Yeah.
That is actually a wonderful segue into a question that Steve Newman posted on Facebook. What would be the price range for a band project? And I know this is an impossible question to answer because it's pretty much from A to Z, but could you give us a rough estimation for all the people watching who love cigars and who have no idea whatsoever about the labor involved and the cost with such a project? What are we looking at?
Well, of course, you have to notice one thing. To start up a machine takes just the same amount of time when you're going to produce 1 band or 1 million bands. You have to order the same. Okay, you can order smaller tools, of course, but when you know, for instance, when you want to order 5,000 cigar bands with foil, with embossing, with cutting, so whether you order 1,000 of those or 5,000 of those, I still would have to buy the foil tool, the embossing tool, the cutting tool. All the digital stuff has to be done. The design has to be done. And then when you take all those costs, and I think for 5,000 bands, within 3 colors, gold foil, embossing, cutting, I think it will set you back somewhere around 1,500 and 2,000 euros for 5,000 bands. But when you would order 7,500 bands, it would only add 100 euros.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first startup cost that, and of course, when you go crazy on the design, that's hideous expensive as well. Yeah. So for instance, when you do like 200,000 bands with existing tools, it will set you back about 0.03 cents a band. That's nothing. And the band we were just talking about is over 30 cents each. So you can go nuts. You can go nuts. When someone decides it would be nice to have a diamond in the center of my cigar band, then it goes up, and it can be done. It can be done. So there you go. It can go from 0.45 cents to yeah.
I think it's so fascinating how much detail and how many little components you can put into such a super small piece of printing art and ultimately create a holistic experience. It's fascinating.
Well, and of course, it all depends how far you want to go. In the early days, everything had to be done by hand. Everything. So now into the digital world, it's getting more and more well, easy to do, but design-wise, you're still that's a thing that happens in the mind that still takes the same amount of time to create something. But then, for instance, an embossing tool, and I've got one here laying. This is one for testing quite a long time ago. This is an embossing tool completely made by a computer.
Oh.
So I did the artwork, and a friend of mine engraved it. Okay. Only machine, no hand. No hands. Okay. But then in the early days, and they still do, they make this by hand. So somebody's actually cutting this out with a tool. And these go over a couple of €1,000. Only this. And then you've got nothing. You only got this. But this is way much nicer. This lives. When you see a band produced with this kind of tool, it lives. Because we as humans have imperfections that makes it perfect at the end. It's the same way when you put on a computer, a drum computer, and when you let a human do that, it's a different feel. And this will never go away, never.
John, I'm a drummer myself, and I feel every word that you say. Now that takes me to my next question, and related to something Albert just posted on Facebook. He was interested if cigar bands printing use laser etching in printing, or if it's still done with ink, for example. And I guess the answer is both, probably.
The answer is both. The only problem is that the printing machines, the laser printing machines, do not have the precise enough alignment to do the further steps. So when you print it, then it's done. You can't apply an embossing or a foil on that because it will jiggle. Mm-hmm. It's not going to fit. When you could implement that in the same machine and doing it at the same time, then you're good to go. But then you would really have a machine who could do the foiling, the printing, and the cutting in one step. The moment the sheet of paper will have to be transferred to another machine, it's out of position. And they're getting better at that. I'm sure there will come a time that they will nail it. But to be honest, who's going to invest into a machine who does cigar bands? I am gonna, but the market itself, I mean, no. The machine market, the way it is, no, it's not going to invest in that. Who will say that in 5 years we need to go to plain packaging? I'm sure that's never going to happen in total, because in some countries it's already going on, but they won't be able to do that globally.
Now,
and I will still be producing bands because it's not illegal to produce bands. There you could put them around it yourself at home.
very true. Well, I would love to explore your opinion about the whole regulatory looming threat and how that might affect the industry and your business in particular. But going back to the machinery and looking at it with a more holistic perspective, you love restoring things. You obviously have a passion for the trusted and true craft and manufacturing things, whilst at the same time there's always something new coming. There's evolution in the machinery, and interestingly enough, I mean, that's the entire essence and the dynamic of the cigar industry. This is one of the most old school, traditional, still 100% handmade industries and products that is so unique today, and that's part of the charm of the industry. But it's also challenged by the disruption even of the 21st century, digitalization, and everything that's going on now. How do you combine that? Where do you find that middle ground? Where do you find that fine balance between the dynamic and the interest and of something new, but then the old school and the trusted and true?
Well, as long as I have customers that will appreciate what we do and not just go for a print, then we're good to go. Listen, the moment we all decide to buy a Tesla, the combustion engine is gone. So as long as people like to hear a roar or whatever, that's really all I can say about it. As long as people appreciate what we do and feel the need to dress that cigar in that way, not looking it like some sort of sleazy print, then yeah. And there will always be people who appreciate luxury in any form or shape.
Very true.
I'm not too worried about that, no.
But in general, would you say that you cling more towards the old school machinery and the stuff that still makes noise, you know, the rustle and bustle, 100-year-old machine compared to a new laser etching and modern stuff?
But you can combine those things. I have 7 machines here, which are all adapted by me. And I got forced into come up with a way to align different processes because of the designs becoming more and more interesting and difficult. So I thought there must be a way to eliminate the as we call it, the fingerspitsgefühl.
Yeah.
So I came up with an idea and interpreted that into all those machines, which makes it much more, it makes it a bit quicker to produce. It makes it safer to produce, because these are really old school machines. When you would jump into the machine, it wouldn't even say, huh. It would squeeze you to death. So much power goes on in that machine. So we need that kind of machinery to, you have to transform paper into a shape between a father and a mother die. And that, you need to really apply a lot of pressure. And that will always have to made on the same way. The industry does have new machinery, but they're all based on big sizes. Very big sizes. And paper is made out of wood, and wood does work. So a piece of paper, during the process of printing and foiling and bronzing and lacquering, it will do like this. And when you want to make all the steps that you do, you want them all to fit. You have to work in small pieces of paper. Now you don't have to. I chose to work in small sizes of paper, which is a lot more work because it takes 2, 3, 4 times as much as work. But the result is visible. The result is absolutely visible. But the machine industry doesn't provide these kinds of machines anymore in a smaller scale. And that's logic. That's logic.
You just mentioned other printing companies and other players in the industry. Steve posted a very interesting question on Facebook, whether is there actually something like a community of cigar ring designers or people who are within that same niche of the industry? And do you communicate with each other? Is there some form of an exchange of ideas and innovation there?
Well, I know, I wouldn't call it a community, but because a lot of those people are competitors, of course. But I'm always in the best seat because I have to make it. So I want to keep them as a friend and they want to keep me as a friend. I talk a lot with designers about stuff that they gave to me, what doesn't work and what does work. What can we implement to still leave your design the way it is, but actually technically it's a lot different, but you won't be able to tell. So in the cigar industry, there are a couple of guys that are well known. Yeah. But the cigar world is a big pool. It's big enough. There's place enough for a lot of fishermen.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. Yeah.
Brian is here with us at the lounge. Brian, you had a question. Welcome, buddy.
Hello. Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. I wasn't sure about my headphones.
You got a new backdrop. What happened to the patio and all the grain?
Well, I'm still in the yard. I'm on the patio. I'm just on the steps into the house here. We're kind of rearranging the yard and we are doing some landscaping, and so I'm out of my home. I'm displaced for the moment, but it's okay. I'm good. Thanks. I wouldn't usually go off topic so much with this question because, of course, we should be talking about cigars and bands and things, but it's come up several times now, discussions about cars and things. So I'm a huge World Rally Championship fan. And, of course, my favorite drivers are the Scandinavians, right? The sport is huge there. So, okay, I guess question one, okay, are you a fan? And in terms of, because moments ago you were just talking about technology and Teslas and cars that make noise. What are your thoughts on the new rally hybrid era?
This is out of my league, what you're questioning now. No. Of course, I know some things about Formula One because of Max Verstappen, of course. But further than that, no, I'm not an enthusiastic guy in watching sports, but I'm into driving cars and driving motorcycles. No, it's for me, it's better to do than to watch.
Gotcha.
That's why.
Okay.
That's why I don't watch porn.
Thank you. Cheers.
Good luck with the yard, eh?
Thanks.
Now, John, if we look at the business and your company yet again, it's a true family operation there, and so many of the great cigar companies are still family-owned businesses and operations. I mean, just last week we had Enrique Cejas from Matilde, and he spoke so fondly about the inspiration from his father and how he was trying to grow into those massive footsteps. How is it for you working alongside family on a daily basis?
For me, it was a total new experience, and here's why. My father was always at work. So actually, I really got to know him when I started to work for him, with him, I must say. So he started the company in 1980, and I was 11 years old then, 12, 11, no, 12. And when I got to work for him, I was 17 years old, 16, 17 years old. And from that moment on, he became the person that I would see the most for the rest of my life. Because when we started out with two. It's my father and me. And later on, my brother came to it. Some other colleagues added it. We're now with a club of 7 people. So still a small company. And I'm trying to keep it this way at a maximum of 10. I think it's still manageable and it's still fun. And that's for me the most important thing, fun. But to work with family is never a problem. Has never been a problem for me. My brother also worked at the Harley Davidson shop. He's in the same band as I do. He rides motorcycles as well. He plays bass guitar. Besides the fact that he's a brother, he's a great friend as well. And I've always seen my father as a colleague. And when you would start to work with whatever kind of relative you're working with, you gotta let it go that it's a relative. That's not relevant anymore when you want to do your job properly. You gotta be able to tell, okay, this sucks, instead of, no, Dad, I think it's no. You gotta be honest. And we're from Amsterdam, so we're face to face. We're spill our guts. I grew up in a place of Netherlands where it's a little bit different, so we really had to adapt there. But I heard from Calito Fuente, he said, "You people are a little bit like New Yorkers." I've never been to New York, so I don't know if that's the case. But yeah, you have to spill your guts when you're working with your family. I think you always need to spill your guts. Yeah, especially when you. Listen, in those early days, I've worked with my father for more than over 12 to 13 hours a day. And then see your wife 4 hours a day. So, yeah. So there you go.
Do you feel like it changed your family relationship with your father
Absolutely.
as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
What about the succession plan? I mean, you're the father of 2 daughters. Do you see some interest in them to also venture into the family business?
No, they're not going to do that. No. They like it. They love everything we do. I just took them on a trip to London, where I was invited to the home house. There was a first that I took them abroad for a cigar event. They really loved it. They haven't seen that before. They're used, as I was, to my father always working. I didn't do it as much without the girls as my father did without us. I always took them with me here, and in the weekend it was all about the girls. So they knew what I was doing. But this part, especially over the last 3 years that I'm coming out and do things like this, this is the second time I'm doing something like this, and I'm sure they're watching. Hey, girls! So it definitely changed the relationship between me and my father. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, listen, who spends more than 13 hours a day with his father? You? No, do you? No.
I don't.
So you really get to know each other.
Which can be a blessing and a burden at the same time.
You said it, and it is. Yeah. Yeah, you learn stuff you would normally not know from each other. And when you do a business together, that's a good thing.
John,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly from the research and from what you told me before as well, I believe you had several offers for the company to be taken over, or the
Yeah.
opportunity to sell the company, yet you always refused to. Was there ever a moment when you thought about the quick exit and spending the rest of your life leisurely on the beach with a cigar in hand?
No. The problem is that I don't give a shit about money, so that doesn't have a hold on me. No. So, and number two is it still makes too much fun to me to do. I can't imagine not doing this. No. So at a very early age, I was asked to collaborate with other companies, which we did. The TSO, I don't know if you guys know the TSO from the Familie Nijkens, very great company as well. Was very involved in the cigar business, still are. Three brothers, Familie Nijkens, very nice people. They really did an enormous task for our company. We've been working for them since 1985 and still do. So yes, I still love it too much. I love it too much to sell it. Yeah. So hasn't come to my mind yet. No.
Now, when you look ahead into the future of the cigar industry and how it would ultimately affect your business, what's the perspective there? I mean, currently we're experiencing a boom with incredible numbers of cigars being brought into the United States. Internationally, in the Eastern Hemisphere, there's empty humidor shelves because everybody has issues with supply and demand now. But do you think that this is sustainable on the one hand? And then, of course, we mentioned the regulatory issues before. Do you sometimes feel like that could cause a real threat to your business as well?
You mean that it's going to go away, or eventually it will?
I guess both, right? Because the boom on the one hand, that is something that could level out and come down to probably.
It's going to level out, no question about it. That's. Listen, we all know why how this occurred. COVID, everybody had to work from home, so instead of smoking 2 cigars a day, you smoke 7, 5, whatever. But that's a big difference, of course. So. But even before the COVID, it was going up. Mm-hmm. It was going up. So, and what is happening now? It's a boom, like in 1983. That's when it all began. Eventually, the big boom. I think it will level out to an extent that perhaps people are getting used to smoking 5 to 7 cigars a week, and now go back to 3 or 4, where in the early days they used to do 2. I don't know, but it's not going to go this way. And there's another problem. It's not just tobacco and wood and all kind of other supplies. Paper. Listen, normally I would pick up the phone, order paper, and within 3 days I would have it here. And now I have several orders that still have to come in that were ordered 3 months ago. I still have some paper, and luckily, what I need to order is still available. But at some point, I think it's going to get tricky. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when that is, I don't know. And I rather don't know.
Now, let's assume that supply and demand issues and global supply chains will eventually find a way to figure themselves out. What probably will not go away as easily is the whole regulatory issue. And you mentioned plain packaging earlier, and we all know that it's becoming a reality in certain markets, Australia and New Zealand, and now recently, I believe even the Netherlands suggested that they might stop all tobacco-related products for people born after a certain year. What could that potentially mean to a business like yours, and how do you prepare for a more heavily regulated cigar landscape further down the road?
Well, that's a big load to carry for just a small printer. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. We still have 3 printers in the Netherlands who do this kind of work, and I'm the only family business still left over. Friday has been taken over partially. TSO has been taken over. Gestel is bankrupt. So listen. The whole cigar industry has left. There are a couple small ones, okay, but Henry Wintermans is already gone. Agio, we all know the story. It's not gone, but it's gone from the Netherlands. Their production facility that was just completely new rebuilt. There was a really nice factory, been taken over by STG. The production plant has been transferred to Westerlo, and on the Dominican Republic, it had some effect as well. So the industry, as it was, is gone. It's gone. So I have to go to abroad to sell some cigar bands. I used to hop into my car, and in 35 minutes, I was at Agio. Really nice people, like us talking to each other about printing work and all that kind of stuff. It's all gone. Well, it's not gone, but it's out of the Netherlands. What will it do eventually to me? Listen, there will always be countries that where we can sell cigar bands to, and I'm not that worried. I've got we're a total of 7 people here. When you got like 100 people on the floor, and 80% of your business is cigar related printing matter, well, that's a big issue, huh? That's a big issue. We have always been in a niche, so that's not my major concern. No, I mean, China is coming up as well. So there are quite a few people living there. So yeah.
John, most recently, and I don't know if you've been following the whole discussion about this, the topic of responsible marketing created some true buzz and excitement in a very ambiguous way in the industry when people were talking about, are certain designs and certain artwork on cigars targeted towards a younger clientele. There was some innovative packaging with all sorts of candy involved and other fancy stuff. And it created quite a bit of a storm in the industry, because obviously it might change the whole dynamic of regulatory issues and how the FDA looks at the industry as a whole. Do you have a perspective or a certain position on that? How do you even see that in your own operations and certain requests that you get for designs?
No, those are not my clients. No, and I know what you're talking about. I've seen some posts on Instagram and people who get really upset. And we all know that the cigar industry is laying under a huge magnifying glass. So And to look for those boundaries, I think it's a silly thing to do. I think it's a silly thing to do. I think there will always be a market for, and I'm not a cigar guy. Who am I talking? But there will always be a market for people who smoke cigars. But when you have to pull it towards your product in a manner that is risky for everyone involved, who only want to do their job correctly and want to do it safe and want to do it without any flavors or going slightly across the border. Well, that's a bit of a bummer. That's a bit of a bummer, because eventually it will all go. Well, the FDA is gonna get tougher every year, and it will not only cherry pick those people who fucked up. It will go across the border, and that's an issue.
Very true.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's a community, as you were talking about the designers. If there's a community within the cigar business, well, I know they get together a lot, but what can you do about it? What can you do about the people who think they do a fair amount of business and they do a fair business when actually they are not, and taking the risk for other companies as well? What can you do?
And why would you put a whole industry at risk because of
just for a quick buck? Just for a quick buck. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, that's something the cigar industry should form some sort of alignment or alliance, I must say. But yeah.
I very much enjoyed how you said those are not your clients and your customers. How carefully do you choose and pick the people that you work with, and what are some of the individual characteristics and qualities that you look for with the people that you work with?
To say it in a blunt manner, but very obvious, I don't work with assholes. So if I tend to feel that someone is using me, and I don't mind to share my knowledge and that you use my knowledge and the technology we have here. When I don't like someone, I'm not going to go the extra mile to do the product that we are all proud of. So at the end, he will end up with something that, well, that I'm not going to put my name on. So why start to begin with? No, I need to have some sort of good click relationship with a customer to go the extra mile. And that saying, a lot of the people, well, all the people that I work with from the cigar industry are great people. And I also have the same with my suppliers. I have suppliers who became friends over the years. And that's what makes my job fun. And when the phone rings, I'm never looking at, it's that asshole again. No, I never have that. And that makes your work so much fun to do.
Yeah. And I guess now more than ever, and especially for you as a multi-generational family business, it's so much more important to carefully choose the people that you work with and very specifically focus on values and shared beliefs with the people that you work with, because in today's day and age, unfortunately, that's become a rare thing, and we need to refocus and realign with those things that are so important, like our dear friend and fellow Jeremiah Meropful, who is here with us watching on Facebook.
He said, hey, Jeremiah.
and and you know, with his tagline, the Uber tradition, and everything that his family stood for, the values and the respect. He rightfully said that the quality cannot be replaced with mediocrity, and you got to respect those very important values. And actually, he specifically asked me to take a moment to honor the Baron of Benz from the entire Merrifield family. So I think that is a beautiful testament to longstanding relationships, trust, and sharing the same values and beliefs that ultimately lead to wonderful collaborations and friendship.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you got to choose wisely when it comes to clientele, to suppliers, to colleagues, because you're spending 8 hours with them each day. You eat with them, you have fun with them. It's a very well. Jeremiah has been here. Hereby, I'm inviting you to come over here, have a look. Then you see how big it is. So it's a very nice working space with a nice environment. Music is always on. So you need to have people around that you enjoy. That's important. And for me, I think it's to try to stay happy with what we do, and not saying every year, like in big companies, okay, this year I want 3% more, next year 4% more. I mean, when I look back, when I take my old bills from 10, 20 years ago, when I looked at what I paid with things, that's all the result of companies wanting to scale up 3% every year. I mean, every 10 years, everything has become 1/3 more expensive. And I'm eating the same amount of food. What the hell? Okay, so to me, the most important thing is to have fun with my job. And of course, I have to earn an honest pay to pay my colleagues. And every now and then you need a new guitar. So, hey, okay. You need a new bike and a new car. Okay, but no, serious. It doesn't always have to be like bum, 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 bum. We need to go up, we need to go up, we need to go up. Because when you always stretching that, you tend to forget what you started it for. Mm-hmm. And still every day, okay, sometimes the work level and the paper issue is really becoming a big thing. Well, whether we can order paper or not. But besides that, all that shit, I have no stress. Every day I'm whistling to work. And that's the most important thing for me.
And it's a matter of keeping your business sustainable, whilst at the same time focusing on sustainability on the individual level, like you mentioned, the papers. Actually, Alistair had a great question over on Facebook. He was curious about the sustainability aspect of paper supply, and you just mentioned that it's becoming more and more of an issue. Yeah. Are there any specific innovations with paper, like Alistair mentioned the greener hemp or papyrus or some other
bamboo.
Innovative
bamboo.
Approach
that bamboo
probably guarantee a better supply and options for the future?
Yeah, bamboo is being transformed to paper now these days. They've been doing that a lot. But listen, we're in a bumpy ride now, paper-wise. But always someone will come up with a solution. Mm-hmm. If we could buy paper without any problems, no one would look for a solution. So every time somewhere there's a problem, someone will come up with a solution. At least I trust in the fact that there was someone that will come up with a solution. It always does. It always does.
John, when you just said that you have music playing all the time whilst working, what is the soundtrack of Van Tintel and Printing Art when all the machines are rattling away? What tune do you put on?
Well, it's basically just the radio that we have on. We have a popular station which plays old tunes, but also the new stuff, because I want to know the new stuff as well. So I go to concerts from older people, but Tuesday, my first concert again, yes, within 2 years, because of the COVID shit, everything was shut down. We have a real nice venue here called the Effenaar. There was a Dutch group called The Wolf. It's a Zeppelin like band. So really, but I take my daughters to Lady Gaga as well. So it's very wide. It's very wide. I'm not gonna take my daughters to Lady Gaga this year because the tickets has gone to the roof. In a couple of months, she is here in Holland, and one ticket costs $276. I don't know what she does in her act that is worth two. So no.
John, I can tell you today the tickets for the Rolling Stones coming to Vienna went on sale, and the prices are out of this world. It's unbelievable. My beloved lady got some tickets for the Stones today, but the prices they were asking for were ridiculous. So yeah. Well,
what did you pay, if I may ask?
Well, it was more than 200 for the individual ticket. It was double that price, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, okay, but listen, the Stones, every time you go to the Stones, might be the last time, eh? I mean, we are talking about that smoking is bad for you, booze is bad for you. I'm not into drugs, but drugs is bad for you. What do these guys stuffed up their nose and their God knows where, and they're still alive? I've heard that every time that someone in the world lights a cigarette, gives an extra year to Keith Richards. So yeah, there you go. But I can imagine that those tickets are really expensive because it might be the last time that you will see him. Yeah.
Very true. And it brings us back to, everything we spoke about, experience. That's what it all comes down to. And that's what makes life worthwhile. It's not the money, it's the experiences that you have and the experiences that you can share with other people, which is also why cigars are such a fascinating and wonderful thing, because they bring us together and they provide us with the opportunity to have such memorable experiences and to share them with each other.
Well, life is hectic sometimes, and when you smoke cigarettes, that's an addiction, and your body needs to smoke. I've just been on a short ski holiday, and I every now and then I smoke a cigarette, and on holidays I smoke a lot of cigarettes, and every time you're down the hill, smoke a cigarette, which is stupid. But when you smoke a cigar, you choose a moment to do that, and that's with a nice glass of wine or whiskey or whatever you prefer, and sit down with nice people.
Very true.
And have good conversations.
Absolutely.
And you need to, because this thing is pushing over an hour now, so you really have to need something interesting to talk about.
John, if you as a person and you with your work as a professional, if you would have to compare that with a particular tune or a style of music, what would be the soundtrack of John van Tintel?
Oh my God. Uh, I'm loving so Kashmir. Kashmir, Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
Great choice.
Yeah.
Now, John,
I think everybody knows Kashmir. I don't need to explain it. Just put on your headphone, crank the motherfucker up, and then you know what I'm talking about.
There's certain things you do not have to explain. You just have to experience it. John, it's been fantastic to share such precious time with you and to learn more about your family operation and all the wonderful detail, finesse, and craftsmanship that go into every single cigar ring. And I truly hope that with today's session and interview, we could inspire some people to probably the next time you light up a cigar, take a moment and don't try to just rip the ring apart and throw it into the bin bag or the ashtray, but focus on it and appreciate and enjoy the art and the finesse and detail that goes into every single ring, because it truly is part of the overall experience. And these are very special products. I always say a cigar is never just a cigar. It's an experience, and it's a window to the heart and soul of the people behind it, everybody who puts the blood, sweat, and tears, as we always say, and the passion into it. And the very same is true for everything that you do. And I cannot congratulate and thank you enough for everything that you do there. And it is most greatly appreciated.
Well, the pleasure was all mine. I must say, I'm just doing what I've been doing for more than over 35 years. So, well, more. I'm getting old. So to me, it's just business as usual. And this is all new to me. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you for inviting me. And I hope to may receive you here one day so you can see with your own eyes how it all comes about.
Probably much sooner than we can.
I've heard some rumors. Yeah.
Well, and that leads me to the end of today's show. You probably all know that in 4 days from now, Light 'em Up will celebrate its second birthday, and we had over 2 million views now over these years, thousands and thousands of people who joined us and watched our shows, and I'm eternally grateful for all the community and the support and the camaraderie. And next Wednesday, I will be on vacation, and we will have a very special get-together and a very special show to celebrate our second anniversary. John, it was such a pleasure just before the 2-year mark to spend time with you and share some of your craft and some of your experience. I have one final question now that you mentioned your 35 or 30 plus years in the industry. And again, taking the music analogy, if you think about your life and your professional career and you were to think of it as a song, where in that song do you feel like you are currently? Is it the second chorus? Is it the bridge? Or where do you feel like you are at this moment in time?
Well, I think I'm in the bridge, at the beginning of the bridge. And the end comes out with a bang. I think the outro will be a big bang. That's what I think. Exactly
how it should be. John van Tintel, thank you so much for this most enjoyable and absolutely precious moment. And thank you so much for taking the time and joining us at the Light 'em Up Lounge. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you. Thank you.
All the very best to all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you again next week here at the Light 'em Up Lounge. Until then, be safe, be well, and always light 'em up. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.